Your team had quite a game.
So football is kind of keeping me going right now because it's like something else to focus on, something else to be angry about.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can be so angry at the world,
Mm-hmm.
but the Bears come a close second because they suck so damn bad.
Mega Dads Live is a mature-rated podcast. It's for the Mega Dads, the Mega Moms, but not the Mega Kids. So put on those earmuffs and let's go!
The Bears gave away, basically did not even try, was
Right.
the whole thing, to give up some with like 30 seconds left in a game. They're right there. The whole world thinks they're going to pull off a Thanksgiving Day miracle to beat a really good team, and they just don't run a play
They just
until like the
didn't.
very last second. It was so jacked up. They were a national embarrassment, and then it was actually going to be a super positive of mine is that they fired the coach and it was over. It was
Well,
like-
let's just do that right now.
Mega Dads being super positive!
Super positives.
So, the Bears fired their coach, so that's my super positive. Finally, he gave up so many games. Just gave in. Just
Yeah.
like, here, I'll take the L, you take the W.
Mhm.
And he was just an atrocious coach, Eberflus. So he's gone.
The Vikings had played the Bears the week
Yes.
prior,
Yes.
and the entire broadcast, the announcers kept talking about how the Bears just find unique ways to lose all the time. And I'm like,
Mhm.
wow, I don't follow the Bears. I follow the standings and all that stuff, but I don't watch them, right? So I'm like, well, that's really interesting. And then your Bears rally back at the end of the game, pulling off the impossible. First, they come back and they get the improbable touchdown. But they got to get a 2-point conversion. Well, they get that too. Well, they've got to get an onside kick. They fucking get the onside kick, send it
never
into
happens.
overtime.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow, we're gonna get humiliated by the Bears. Still lost. Your Bears still lost against the Vikings. And then I was like, well, I'm gonna tune in to see the next game, and they do the same thing. They're rallying back. I'm like, oh my god, they're like what the Vikings were a couple of years ago, where it always comes down to the end and they pull it within like a single point. Boy, that was impressive. That's my super positive as well. Not the Bears in particular, but just my Thanksgiving was like normal.
Really?
It was
Good.
like I was so prepared to have a very frustrating Thanksgiving because
Yeah.
our family does 1 year home here with my mother and then 1 year in Wisconsin with my in-laws, and this was our year to do it here.
Mhm.
And I just had this feeling like I feel like we're just building up to Adam and Mom conflict because
Yeah.
we're due, right? Like
Yeah,
people
we're due.
who have
Yeah.
parents know how this works. Like
Yeah.
you have like a big blowout of conflict, and then you have a smooth period, but you can always tell like I'm getting back to that point. Like we're due for a fight. We're due, and Thanksgiving is like the powder keg, right? Like
Yeah.
you're primed and ready for this, and it was just smooth, no drama. No
Nice.
arguments. Watched the parade, watched some football. We played some games, one of which I'm going to talk about later in this episode. And it was just nice. It was just nice. And I drove my mom back home afterwards. And on the ride back in the car all by myself, I was just like kind of blown away. Like this was a normal Thanksgiving where nobody really had any issues or drama, and it was super awesome. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was the same thing. I was nervous. I was still nervous the whole time that something was going to go down. Like we had some people around us that were just like, that you could have a conflict with potentially, but
right.
nothing happened. It was smooth. Family was great. The food was great. It was just uneventful. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Uneventful Thanksgivings are great.
So good, so good. Well, let's get into one of my favorite new segments that we like to do. It's the Parent of the Month.
Yay!
This month's Parent of the Month is actually not necessarily a biological parent, but I think they're doing some great parenting, and I'm going to talk about it right here. The parent of the month this month is the Connecticut Attorney General William Tong. The
Okay.
Connecticut Attorney General William Tong. And the reason that he's the parent of the month is because he's launching this whole campaign against self beauty products for children, for minors. Beauty
Yeah.
products that parents are buying for their kids. They're putting like face creams and de-aging shit all over their kids, and they just don't need it. I'm going to read a little bit about this, and then I want to get your opinion on it. Tong says that he's going after this product that is called the Drunk Elephant Itty Bitty Mitty Committee Face Scrub. That's a whole mouthful right there. And he says the product targets kids over social media, and they're being pitched hard this holiday season. He says many of these anti-aging products contain active ingredients including retinol and other acids that are often unsuitable and potentially even harmful to children's skin. Pediatricians will often get kids that come in with irritated skin and rashes and all this stuff because their parents, it's like when you get your daughter makeup, right?
Yeah.
But this is like going like way overboard with it, and kids are breaking out in rashes and hives because they're using these de-aging products, and they just don't need it.
Yeah.
My kids, they like, and yes, both kids, my son and my daughter, they like using like these products because my wife does. So
Yeah.
my wife does like the face mask and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they want to do a mask. And my daughter obviously gets like makeup, and she likes to put makeup on herself and stuff like that. And my wife bought my kids these little face masks.
Yeah. I've
I
seen
didn't
them.
think too much of it, right? It's just
Right.
whatever for fun. But I read this article, and you have a daughter, so I'm curious if your kid likes to put on products, and what do you think is like the line that parents should draw here?
My wife is a cosmetologist. She did like all her schooling. She's done hair.
Oh,
and
really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, so she's had like her own studio and like has done different things with it, but she's always been into like, beauty or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And it's interesting because, people, women and like people are beautiful, and we do have like these standards that we've like all created for like perfection. So it's odd because like my wife likes it, so I'm just like, go ahead, do it. You do you. Right? I mean, if that makes you feel better, if that's I mean, she likes getting ready to go out, and she hardly ever does it, so she'll do that. So because my daughter's been watching her and wants to be her, she'll like, fake put on the makeup.
Right.
She puts on lip gloss, so she does that. And she got into her lipstick one time as a baby and like put it on, and it was funny. Like she's like, how did you get my lipstick? And she had put it on her mouth. So it's like they want to be us, they want to emulate, and she seems to enjoy it. Like my wife will do my daughter's hair, and it's like this beautiful moment of like, I've been doing my hair my whole life. I'm like, do you ever think you were gonna do your daughter's hair? And she's like all done up,
Yeah.
like for the holidays and all that. But then there's that other side of it where these kids are like in their prime. They're being told that they would need a product they obviously don't need. It's a waste. It's harmful. It's perpetuating that same like idealized like version of beauty. It's
Right.
crazy. I mean, I understand them going after that because give them a break. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
there should be some laws against like harmful products that are
Right.
advertised to kids. So I'm all for it. I think that's a good thing that they're like regulating it somewhat. I mean, it's up to each parent. I really don't want my daughter to be wearing full-blown makeup until like she's an adult,
Yeah.
like I don't know, when you don't need it, when you're a teen or whatever, like don't do it. I mean, it's so odd, it's so weird to me. Like kids are exfoliating now, like
Yeah.
what?
It's this article cites like TikTok and
Yeah.
YouTube Shorts is like it's just pummeling kids over the head with all these.
I've heard of this. I heard of this before because on like different like YouTube channels will do like exposés saying like this is a problem because a lot of the people who were working makeup noticed that younger and younger people were coming into the stores, and the retail workers were like dealing with them because they have like a group of like young people coming in, giving them lip, like acting like,
Right.
entitled or whatever. So I saw an expose about how like this was like going rampant, that the workers were like, why are you here? Like, where are
Yeah.
your parents? Like, this is a beauty store. And they're like, we know. And it's
Yeah.
just like, it's crazy.
It's one thing to do it for fun. It's one thing to do it for dress up, but you got to hold a limit. The way that I deal with it at home is I just tell my 7-year-old, don't be a whore.
Oh my God.
Let's talk about Tomb Raider Anniversary Trilogy Remastered. I don't even think that's the name of it. It's Tomb Raider Remastered Trilogy, Tomb Raider Trilogy Remastered, something like that. But it's a remaster of Tomb Raiders 1, 2, and 3, the classics, the way backs. Like Tomb Raiders had like 3 different iterations and all that shit. And this is a remaster of Tomb Raider 1, Tomb Raider 2, and Tomb Raider 3, which I originally played on the PlayStation 1. I've got them on my shelf right here. I'm a huge Tomb Raider fan, right? I love these classic games. And in fact, the reason that I bought this game is because when this game originally launched, when this franchise originally launched back in, I think, 1996, they were holiday games. And and they released in the Thanksgiving, Christmas season, and I very distinctly remember renting these games and playing them with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And we would play the shit out of Tomb Raider. We stayed up all night playing Tomb Raider, passing the control back and forth, filling up the memory card, and PlayStation had a Black Friday sale where they discounted this remastered trilogy. And so I was like, oh my God, I'm going to buy Tomb Raider, and me and my mom are going to play it on Thanksgiving, just like we did fucking 30 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about this remastered trilogy is it is very much remastered. It is the exact same game with a few quality of life improvements, but mostly it's exactly what you remember with polished graphics. So the controls are the same, tank-based controls. For people who played, for people who played these original games, very clunky controls. You have to tap the down arrow on the D-pad to like hop backwards. I have to hold the R1 button to walk, otherwise Lara runs. Everything is grid-based, so as you look at the level, everything is based off of like squares. It's like you're running on a chessboard that's decorated with stuff. Very old school controls and level design, which I love. Like that's the charm of these games. It's when games were level based. Like you can remember the Midas level or the dinosaur level, and games aren't like that anymore. They're just through lines. What's your favorite level from The Last of Us, right? Like that doesn't exist anymore. So I love the old framework of these Tomb Raider games, and they're just polished up. And what's really cool is like it still looks old. Like my son makes fun of me because he's like, this game looks really old, but they've actually done a lot of work to increase the character model of Lara. Has way more polys. Like she used to be, just big blocky cardboard box character, but now she's like she looks kind of like she did in the Tomb Raider Legend or Tomb Raider Underworld era of Tomb Raider. So she's got more poly, she's more smoothed out, she looks more like a person. But the textures are really nicely done. They're still plastered on flat square surfaces. But when you really compare them side by side with the old version, the old pixely textures, it looks quite beautiful. And the frame rate is totally smooth. So it's kind of like the best of both. It still feels like an old 1990s era game, but it looks nicer and it performs better. And you can kind of relive that old nostalgic feeling without having to play like the old chuggy PlayStation 1 or Sega Saturn game.
So, quick note, do not buy Tomb Raider Anniversary, because Tomb Raider Anniversary had come out already, different game, different set of games. This is Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3 remastered. This is the type of thing that would confuse like a parent going to shop for their child and be like, oh, I really want the Tomb Raider 1, 2, 3 like remastered, and they end up buying Tomb Raider Anniversary. So little check on that. It's Tomb Raider Remastered, the most recent release.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you had said that the visuals, were improved. Something that's always stuck out to me about Tomb Raider were the breasts. Lara Croft is busty, was made that way. It was really an eye-opening moment for me as a child, where I was like, I'm a red-blooded male.
I'm a boy.
I was like,
I'm a real boy.
I'm a real boy. Yeah. I was like, whoop. So talk to me about this. Is there jiggle physics? Like, what is going on here? Or is she like just stacked and pointy like the original?
It's more of a rounded firm. There's not a lot of movement there, but there's better shading technology. Obviously, a lot more polys at play there.
Yeah, give me the polys.
But she definitely still feels like a mannequin, right? Like the animations are like exactly the same.
Yeah.
So you're running and you look like you got a stick up your ass, and that's kind of the interesting thing about this is it feels like in your hand, not her boobs, but like the game the controls in your hand and playing through it, it feels exactly the same as it did before. And something really cool that this remaster does that I know some other remasters have done. I think Halo did this as well. With the click of the button, you go back to the old.
Oh, no
graphic.
way. Oh, yeah. I love when they do that. That's
and
cool
it is
to take
instant.
a peek. Yeah.
And that's what I talk about, like when you compare it side by side. Like once you boot this game up and you start playing it, you'll be like, yeah, this looks fine, but it's not great. But then when you actually side by side it to the old version, you get a much greater appreciation for the work that they did, taking the old pixely textures of like a mural or something in a tomb, and then you go back and forth between it. You can see that an artist really went and redrew all of that, and the texture work is super clean, super beautiful, and it's recreating that old look for a modern day. They've actually done, because the old game suffered from what a lot of those old games did, really poor draw distance. If you played the original Tomb Raider on the PlayStation 1, the distance would be very black, right? It would be like you're running through a dark area, and it's really black and really shadowy. And the ceilings were just like rock. But in this version, they've actually taken the ability to expand that draw distance. It's got great lighting. Some of the tombs now have open air, so you can see the sky and the stars or the sun and the clouds and stuff. Whereas in the original version, it was just flat rock because they couldn't render that. So I encourage people who are really into that old version, take your time to really toggle back and forth quite a bit. It kind of
appreciate it more.
Right. It kind of roughs up the experience of like just getting into it, but really take the time to get to an area that you remember and toggle back and forth to see how they changed it. Architecturally and structurally wise, it's still the same, but aesthetically, like they've really done a lot of interesting things here that I love, because like I said, I'm a Tomb Raider nut. I know where all the secrets are. I know how to do all the moves and all that stuff. I know this game like the back of my hand, so I'm really enjoying going through this again. And I'm halfway through the first game. This remaster, like we said, has Tomb Raider 1, 2, and 3. So that's 3 full games. Full price, I think this thing is $25. I got it on sale for like $20. And they just announced that they're doing the next 3 games on another remaster, which are not my favorite Tomb Raider games. But I got to say, the experience of reliving this and seeing how they touched it up, I'm a little bit more interested to check that out now. And I'm hoping that they continue to do this, because I would love to see Tomb Raider Legend remastered, and Underworld, all that stuff. I want them to keep going. They really do a fantastic job with this remastered trilogy. And the other thing I'll say is, I got into a bit of a tiff with somebody online when I was talking about Silent Hill 2, because Game of the Year awards came out, and people are all remakes shouldn't be nominated for Game of the Year, that kind of thing. And I got into a tiff with the guy about the difference between a remake and a remaster, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Silent Hill 2 is a remake through and through. They tore that bitch to the ground and they rebuilt it.
That's a new thing.
Completely brand new experience.
Yeah.
Tomb Raider is a remaster. Like,
right.
There's a new coat of paint on it, but it's the same game. And I think just that contrast, both are really great experiences, but they're completely different experiences, right? And so this is very much a remaster. Final Fantasy VII and Silent Hill are remakes. And I think that
100%.
distinction is important.
Now, Adam, this game is fun for the whole family because I saw a video and it was of a nice little old lady.
Yep.
Completely taking pistols to murk this alligator that's running. So the alligator's coming down the hall, pistols out, blah, 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 blah. And the camera pans, and I think it's your mom.
It's my
just
mom.
like destroying this alligator with a bloodlust in her eyes.
Yeah.
Just like staring at the screen, like taking her back to the old days when she used to, be on the street. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it was crazy. So what was that about? You let your mom unleash on the game, huh?
I tell you, my mom has always been a gamer. When we grew up playing PS1, N64, all that stuff. Mario Kart was our main jam, but Tomb Raider was our secondary jam. And my mom has played through this game over and over again. So It was so fun. My mom's like 80 years old now, right? And to put the controller in her hand and have her relive this experience. I'm sitting on the floor next to her. Thanksgiving dinner is over. We're all just kind of digesting some pie and blasting away some gorillas and lions in a tomb. And it was great. Like, it was a total, it's what I expect to happen when I'm an elderly old fart. And I want my son and my daughter to be like, hey, Dad, you want to play Crossy Road Castle like the old days? I fully expect that to happen. And so to be able to have like the three generations, my mom and myself and my kids in the room, and we're all playing Tomb Raider together, really was awesome. A great time. This Tomb Raider trilogy is a blast and great memories for sure in my family. So I highly recommend it for people who love that old series. If you are a newcomer to Tomb Raider and you cut your teeth on like the Survivor trilogy, this is not for you. You're not going to get anything out of this at all. Like the level design, the character motivations, the controls, all that shit is just better now. But for a person like me who loves to revisit the classics, this is made for me, and I'm having a great time with it.
Sweet.
And that sound is the caboose, which means we've come to the end of this episode of Mega Dads Live, where we give you a recommendation for something outside the world of video games that we think you're going to enjoy. Antonio, what's up your caboose?
I was at my good buddy Clay's house, and he is very much into games and board games and card games, and he has like this huge collection. You ever meet these people that just have all these games? I'm like, pick something that I would like and let's go ahead and play. And he made an excellent choice. So off of his shelf, he pulls something called Century Golem Edition. So long story short, it's this really cool board game where you have all these gems and you can take a certain number of gems or cards each turn. And there's like a little translation. It'll say one blue gem can transform like in alchemy into 3 yellow gems or whatever. So then you say, okay, I'm going to play this card and I'm going to turn 1 blue gem into 3 yellow gems. And then you keep like kind of transferring your currency, these gems, and you're trying to build up to like, I don't know what the lore is, but you like purchase or you defeat these big golem cards. So they have these very nice big like rocky monster cards, and it's like, hey, to kill or to buy, I don't know which one it is, to get this card to score points you need 1 pink, 2 blues, and a yellow. And then you're like constantly like trading, and you're doing like currency manipulation to try to build up, and then you're watching what other people are doing and you're saying, oh man, this person has three blues, he's probably going for that, so let me like steal that first. And it's very entertaining. And actually what I didn't know after doing the research to buy the game myself was Century is like a board game that has multiple iterations. So there's like the Golem edition, there's like other editions, and you can actually take, if you have multiple of these editions, put them together, and now you're playing like a bigger game with bigger strategy. So now you're moving like transporting carts and other resources around. So it's really good. It was pick up and play, very easy to understand, like tactile, where you're touching something. And like I like games like that where it's like, oh, you have coins or you have some type of gems. So it's very cool art. It's on sale Cyber Monday right now for $29.99, and it's not expensive, and it's really good. Century is a board game series and very nice.
I always see these games when I go to like Games by James or whatever at the mall, and I'm always just like, I'm fascinated by how somebody comes up with these ideas.
Yeah.
Like you were talking about like the Disney card game that you were so into earlier this year.
Lorcana,
it's like easy to understand, yes, but man, that's got to take a lot of effort to actually construct a game that works. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like they must have to workshop and workshop and workshop just to get these things right and to get them simple and streamlined. So I'm fascinated by that kind of stuff. So Century.
There are whole YouTube channels that go into like the making of games and rating them and telling you if they're good. And they talk about that. They talk about, oh, this is a game where you're going to be against other people. This is more cooperative. This has action economy. Yeah. This has a currency thing. This is a fast game. This is a slow game. So yeah, there's so much to board games. It's very interesting. Find one that works for you.
And it's perfect for the holiday season, right? What better to enjoy the holidays than with a good tabletop game, everybody's sitting around and doing something instead of staring at their phones. I have a recommendation for a holiday movie that we just watched last night. My wife had recommended it, and I love my wife, but she is hit or miss with these movies, right? She's like, I heard about this thing, let's watch it. I'm like, okay. It stars Ben Stiller. It's on Hulu. It's called Nutcrackers. I'm like, oh, great. It's a holiday movie starring Ben Stiller. This should be hilarious. It actually ends up being more of like a indie dramedy where it's like, it's funny, but it's not like punchline funny.
It's a Ben Stiller movie.
And it grows on you. It's about this guy who's going from Chicago to Ohio, where his sister and her husband recently passed away, leaving their 4 kids.
Oh my God. Why do you got to do this to me, Adam? God damn. Why does the parents have to die in
parents
the
are
opening
dead.
Scene? Keep going.
Leaves the 4 kids orphaned, and he's going to close down the estate and to make sure that these kids can be placed in a good foster home. He's trying to find placement for these kids so he can get back to his life as a busy bachelor in Chicago. And these kids live in this run-down, shitty farm, and they're just like tearing around, causing mayhem and havoc in the town. And they've got fucking wild animals running through. There's like a snake in the toilet. It's very misfit kids. Ben Stiller comes in, and he's like just trying to deal with them, right? And this sounds like a recipe for a slapstick comedy, but it's really not. It's so heartwarming. And this movie, as it goes through, at first I was like, I don't know about this. Like the tone is just off. It's kind of weird. But by the end, I was in tears. Super sweet. It's funny, but not like belly laugh funny, and great character writing and direction. And it's a very heartwarming story. It's Nutcrackers. It's on Hulu, starring Ben Stiller. And I was blown away. I absolutely loved it. So I recommend it to everybody. And that's going to do it for this episode of Megadads Live. Thank you for watching or listening. Don't forget to join us on the Megadads Discord. Give us your holiday recommendations. Maybe you've got a favorite holiday movie that you want to share with us. We will see you next week on an all-new episode of Megadads Live. Bye!